I always find it's kind of, is that?
Or wireless.
It's always best to wait for a minute anyway, because it takes a little bit for people to come join us. They get the notification and then they start rolling on Facebook Live and Periscope. And so, hey, do we have people joining in now?
Yeah,
yes.
people joining
All
in.
right.
Hello. Hi, Al. Hello.
Hello,
Who's with you?
I'm Al Roker.
I'm Erin Aid.
And we're waiting for Deborah Roberts to show up. We've written this book called Been There, Done That. Modern wisdom, family wisdom for modern times. It's not a how-to.
No.
Because we made a lot of mistakes and continue to. So in fact, I would read it and do the exact opposite of what we talk about in the book.
So it's really important.
Yes.
It's really important. All answers are in there.
All the answers, it's like Bizarro. You know, yes is no, no is up, up is down.
But no, here's the good thing, Al. First of all, I've read most of it, and I have to say that what's really cool is that you don't feel like you're being preached to. It's not self-help. It's not a how-to. It's just cool, and it's helpful because you want to see how someone else led the way. And frankly, you guys are doing life pretty well. All things considered, you're not blowing it, so it's good to know from someone who's succeeding.
It is success is a relative thing in that, and this is Pepper, by the way.
Pepper.
Pepper is our little rescue. She's a Havanese. It is a work in progress. You are constantly learning from your children, from friends, from family, and so we've just kind of, as things happen, we kind of wrote them down. And although, to be honest, I didn't want to do the book. This was more Deborah's idea.
You've done a few books
I've done
too.
A few
you
books.
know what you're doing in that.
Yeah, I was not. I was like, nah, no good can come of this. But for those of you who are married, you know that. Yes, dear. Yes.
My husband says that. I know that I'm happier.
Exactly.
Be happier because I'm happier. That's
exactly. Happy wife, happy life.
Another thing that we should tell everyone who's watching, and if you're tuning in, we can remind you throughout. Now, you can actually win a copy of this book. We have a contest.
Autographed copies of Been There, Done That. If you go to what are the rules for this?
Yeah,
I don't even know what they are. March 15th. You go to www.alroker.com. The contest will close March 15th. We're drawing names out of a hat. Is that how it's working? Okay,
yes.
We're going to draw names out of a hat, and
they'll win a free signed copy.
and you get. We've got 3 to give away, so you'll win a free signed copy, or you could actually request the book unsigned if you prefer that. So.
No, and I do have to say it is. Really
Where is
good.
Deborah? A lot of people are asking.
Deborah, for those of you who do or don't know, Deborah is the real journalist in the family. She works at ABC News, and she's prepping a piece for Nightline that airs tonight. So she's busy, so she's on her way. But it's just better that she's late than me.
There you go. Because you are spread thin.
No. It's about for those of you who are married, it's about the relationship bank. You know? Because now she's late for something that we had set up, so I get credit.
Yes,
because I'm here,
awesome. And you can use that. You can redeem it at any
No,
time.
not really.
No? How does
but
it work?
it should work that way.
Okay.
But it rarely does when it comes to the guy. The guy, you're just buying extra time. Really, you don't get any credit.
You didn't mess up.
You didn't screw up this time.
It's a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
Al, Emily wants to know is how you met your wife in the book.
Yes, it is. We met at NBC. Deborah was working at NBC. She was at Dateline. Worked at Dateline. She was filling in on the Today Show. I was filling in on the Today Show, and that's how we ended up meeting. I mean, we were friends at first, and then eventually started dating, and got married.
And working in the industry, it's a double-edged sword. It seems.
Yes. Sure. Oh, that could be her. I heard a door. Is that you?
Maybe.
That's her. There she is.
Yay.
There she is. She's back. She's here.
Ran over a little old lady.
Oh, my golly.
Somebody in the pedestrian sidewalk, get out of the way!
Move.
Got a big deal to do. Hi, sweetheart, hi.
Pepper is actually Deborah's dog. Even though theoretically she was for the kids, Deborah is her alpha.
Yes, you're right.
And as soon as she gets home, it's like,
The pack
it's so
leader.
funny. She can be
Deborah,
like,
join us. Come
Aaron.
shine. So good to meet you. Fun too.
Hi, are we on?
Yeah.
we're on Facebook Live and Periscope.
All right, let me just disclose right away that if this had been the other way around and he had been late, I would be fully annoyed.
Wait, oh my goodness, Deborah, really? Your
Okay,
husband
I would just
I
absolutely
just
be
said
so upset with
I
you.
just
Okay,
said
okay, so I want to just get that out of the way. All right.
It's true. This is how it works. This is how it
If
works.
you read the book, Deborah probably sped here.
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
But
Yeah.
you know what, though? Then I decided to pull it back just a little bit.
Were you driving?
Vision zero. Of course I was driving.
Oh, you were driving.
Yeah, that's why I made it so fast.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ran
So-
across the street, got the car.
And you look
in the-
smashing for running in this
Oh
fast.
my gosh. The minute he called, I went, oh no. I knew I was going to be in such trouble.
But I
No,
see,
you
one of
didn't.
the things we talk about in the book is me calling all the time.
I know.
So the
You
one
should've
time
called
I
me
didn't
today.
call.
You should have called me today.
Of course, because it's the one
I
time
know,
you did it.
I
But
know.
now that I have you both here, I really want to say this book is really impressive. And you guys have a quote from the book, and you say, you know, other than the Bible, there's truly no life handbook for modern times. There's no user manual to confirm that what you're doing, if you're doing this thing called life right. And life is what this book is all about. Objectively, you guys are doing life right.
We're doing life all over the map.
But you guys
honey.
are really, I think a lot of people are, look to you, and you're such role models, and we've done so much, so many accomplishments, both of you. So how do you get this thing called life right? Easy question to start off
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't even say hi to you properly. Hi, how are you? Okay,
Good,
fine.
good. I don't know that we get. You know what? There are snapshots. You know.
Yeah.
So at some moments, it's boy, things are great.
Yes.
And then if you were to come in an hour later, it was like, oh my God, it's turmoil. It's crazy.
It's always that moment when we say, you know what, this has been a good week. Everything's kind of going along really nicely. The next day, somebody
Something
has a
happens.
breakdown.
One of the
Something
kids
goes off.
melts down. Something happens.
I'm mad with you. You know,
But I
something
think
like
the fact
that.
that you guys are so candid about that, it's so real, it's so
Well,
cool, and you
she-
guys are private, but at the same time you're very real, and you can see that in the book. That it's not, we're not perfect, we're just doing this so we can.
I know we are. I kind of wanted to be a little bit more honest. I think that you did. I
Well,
wanted
at
to
least
just,
open. I don't
I
want
wanted
to
to
do
just put it out there.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to. I just no, I did not want to. I was very and the other reason I didn't really want to work on a book together was because to me it was fraught with danger.
Yeah?
Working working together.
Danger?
Because you know
How about problematic
no, danger, Will Robinson, danger. No, it could have been. I mean, we literally, about 3 weeks ago, we were working on a text. Deborah asked me to text a friend of ours, a mutual friend. And we got into a fight over the text,
I
just
wouldn't
writing
say
a
fight.
text.
I wouldn't see a fight.
A strong disagreement.
There you go.
Okay, look,
Okay.
disagreement.
So, and
He
I'm
didn't
thinking,
have his punctuation
I
right.
mean, you wanted to sit in a room and write a book together? Consequently, we were never in the same room when we wrote the book.
And that might have worked. That's the formula. There you go. Another life
Yeah,
success.
don't. I mean, we had a great editor, this woman Laura Morton, who kind of took everything and put it together. I've worked with her on a couple-
Refereed the whole
put it
situation.
on a couple and I was like, no, this is we. And so she had kind of. So it's kind of a he said, she said, back and forth within chapters. The kids talk have their voices in it a little bit.
I know. Speaking of your kids, I want to ask you about that. You know, your book, you write a lot, actually, Deborah as well, and you too, Ali, that you're influenced a lot by your parents and how they were in your life. And I want to know how that influences your parenting, raising your kids.
Well, I think we do a lot of thinking about the way we were raised. By the way, you can't get any more real than this. I've got a hole in my pants. Okay,
We
you want
never
to
say
say that we're real? Okay, yeah, it's just like so embarrassing. I think a lot about my parents because I'm a Southern girl. And I grew up in a big family, 9 kids. My parents really had to struggle to make ends meet. And so I think a lot about our kids. I don't, I mean, yes, are they privileged and spoiled a little bit because they grow up in New York City? But I really think a lot. I think a lot more about how I grew up and, kind of when I went to school, we did it this way. Or just, simple things like kindness and thinking more about your neighbor. I mean, granted, it's small town, but I really try to, I think, impart a lot of those values to our kids. obviously, work ethic and honesty and those things, but I think we do wind up pulling out a lot of quotes from our parents when we're raising the kids, because I feel like they did a few things right.
Yeah, they did. I mean, as my mom once said, I was trying to, Courtney, who's now almost 29, it was the first time we were going away, and she had a cold, and I'm telling my mother, okay, you do this and do this. And my mother said, I've raised 6 of you. You're all still alive. I think I know what I'm doing.
I got this one.
But we try to have as normal a life as possible. I mean, the kids have to set the table, they clear the table, they do their chores. They see mom and dad, dealing with dishes and washing dishes and doing all that stuff. So, I think, we've tried to keep them fairly grounded.
And it seems like you really have. Deborah, you write that your mother, at the time you mentioned that you were raised in the South, that she was really quite a feminist for the time.
Kinda.
And you write about her wearing pants and how that was such a big deal. And it's really cute. I love that part of the book. And you also have daughters of your own, and you're a powerful woman, and a lot would consider a feminist in a good way, where you're empowering yourself, you have a job, you have a life. How has your mother influenced the way you raised your daughters?
It's very interesting because my mom was sort of a quiet feminist, as I said. And I don't know if you remember that bit in the chapter about my mom came out one day wearing pants and my dad didn't like it. And Southern women, are kind of notorious for wearing pantyhose and dresses and so forth. But I would say my mom definitely, while she didn't really have the benefit of an education and certainly not a college education and wasn't able to pursue dreams, she wanted us to, and she certainly took great pride in what I did. So I think for me, I really just want to make sure that Leela has a voice and really thinks about things as a woman too. I mean, we'll have discussions, but it's interesting because she's picked up on a lot of things just in her own right. I mean, she's probably more of a feminist than I am.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit more of a conservative, social conservative kind of person, again, because of my Southern values. But my daughter is very much about, equality, or I say something that she interprets as stereotyping. She'll call me on it right away if I said he when I'm talking about a doctor whom I haven't met. She goes, well, how do you know it's not a she?
I love that.
Yeah.
Guys, some online questions real quick.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So a couple of people wanted to know, who is the strict parent?
Good
We
question.
get that question a lot, and I think it depends on the day,
Yeah,
right?
we kind of morph back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, my general rule is no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I can always back off from that. But
in fact, our son will come to me and ask, and I go, well, Dad's right downstairs with you. Why did you ask him? Well, because I know he's going to say no.
I know the answer. So, exactly.
And who wins more fights between the two of you?
I'd have to say it's Deborah. I mean, the kids, it's very funny. We were having brunch yesterday, and the kids said something, Deborah said something, and you said, well, why is everybody looking at me? And
They were asking permission.
Yeah, and the kids said, well, because you're the boss.
And I said, I am not the boss. I am not the boss. They go, Mom, you're the boss. But our son, even in looking at the cover of the book, said, why are you two, what are you fighting? You have your backs against each other. Why are you fighting on the cover?
Good observation.
He just assumed. I said, no, we're not fighting. Maybe we're holding each other up.
And by the way, if you go to www.alroker.com, there is an opportunity to win 3 autographed copies, one of 3 autographed copies. The contest closes March 15th. So,
There you go.
Yes.
well, they're not selling them, we're giving these away. But,
All right,
but we want you to go to
fine.
buy the book with buy many copies. Mother's Day is coming up. This will get this out. Get your Mother's Day presents out of the way.
Yeah, it's important.
Yes.
Buy it
And
early.
where can you buy the book? People are asking.
Oh, anywhere. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com,
Small
Barnes and Noble.
bookstores.
Your independent bookstore. They are the lifeblood
Yes.
of the book industry.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We have a
Yes.
great one
Yep.
up where we live, where we have a house in Chatham, New York, Chatham Books.
Parnassus in Nashville,
Books
Tennessee.
in Nashville. Book Review out on Long Island. I mean, there's just some wonderful, wonderful, great mom and pop books.
And people are asking, what's the book title?
It is called
Oh, there
Been
you go.
There, Done That.
Family Wisdom for Modern Times.
Right.
And people ask us how we came up with the title, and I kind of take a little
Yeah,
credit.
no,
but
you take it all.
I take a little credit. No, but we were sitting around brainstorming, and
And you
I
came
don't
up
even
with it.
know. Maybe
It's
I
just
even
you.
said something like, yeah, been there, done that. And somebody, either you or Laura, said, I like
Oh,
that
I like that.
idea.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's really, really good, and I love how you just split the title too. I don't even know if you noticed that, but you were talking before that you learned from your daughter how she was like, Mom, you're being super conservative. Why is the doctor definitely male?
Right.
What have your kids taught you, Al? You both learned from your kids a lot. It seems like.
Well, I learn to listen to them. That look, I mean, we're the parents, and that's you don't abrogate that. But we talk about Leela wanted to go. Leela went to a very good private school here in Manhattan. from kindergarten through middle school. But for high school, she had developed a passion for theater and wanted to go to the Performing Arts high school, public school here in Manhattan. And Deborah was a little...
I was completely against
Okay.
it. You're so sweet. Deborah was a little against it. I was completely against it.
But I was kind of like, I heard what she wanted and what she was saying, and I thought, you know what? Why not? Because what's the worst that happens? You know, it doesn't work out, and she goes back to another school.
But you're also a kid of New York,
Yeah,
too.
I
and
grew
you
up here,
have a
and
comfort level.
I wanted to, you know, look, and I will say right off the bat, my life has turned out spectacularly. I mean, I'm a blessed man. But one of the things that happened is, I know, at least I know to say that. Growing up, I was a cartoonist. I loved cartooning, and I wanted to go to the New York School of Graphic Art and Design. Every great comic strip artist went to that, and I got a chance to get a scholarship to a Jesuit military school,
Xavier, right?
Xavier High School. And my parents would have none of it. They said, "No, you are not going to that school. You are going to Xavier. You got a scholarship to a Jesuit. This can put you on a great path. No, you are not going to learn how to draw cartoons."
But they also wanted you to have
They wanted me to have
top-notch
a great education, and
more
I get
than
that.
they had had.
And my life has turned out, like I said,
Right.
spectacularly. But in the back of my mind, I've always wondered what would have happened if I had done that. And I didn't want Leela to have that, well, what would have happened? And only 20% of the kids at any given, at that school, in any given the disciplines, whether it's dance or theater or whatever, art, go on to take that career. But every one of them we've talked to has said, no matter what they do, they've used what they learned in that school
Right.
for their adult life.
And
But
it's,
on-
yeah,
But
please
on the
go
flip
ahead, Deborah.
side, I grew up in small town Georgia and went to a small public school, and it was fine. It was great. But, you know, if I had had an opportunity, if I had choices like that, and the idea that I have my daughter in one of the most prestigious private schools in the city, and she has this opportunity, and for her to say, no, I don't think so, you can imagine it's difficult for me as a mom,
100%,
wanting for her what
yeah.
I didn't have.
Right.
And that's what we learn. Wanting for your children what you didn't have is not always the path
Right.
for them.
Right. You don't. It's one thing to want better for your children. It's another thing to live vicariously.
Yeah, it's like our son Nick, who's 13 and a half and has some learning issues, and I have been guilty of kind of locking him into being a younger kid, or and he's like, he'll say, "Dad, I'm a teenager." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, right."
Okay.
It's so true.
Well,
It
no,
is so true.
the good news with that is that you grow up, even if you don't want to.
Right, exactly.
So you should enjoy that.
Does
for
that say "Welcome Celebs"?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's a Facebook group.
Uh-huh.
Celebs on Facebook, and
Oh.
you were just shared on that. So
Oh,
Celebs
Celebs on
on
Facebook.
Facebook.
all the
Okay, great.
4.1 followers.
Welcome. Thank
There
you.
you
go.
Million.
Every follower.
4.1 million.
million.
I was going to
thank
say
you.
4.1 followers. So there's 9/10 of a follower that's missing.
Here's that one.
Wow,
Take
that's
our
just
followers.
like an ankle and some feet.
4.1
We take our followers where
4.1
we can
million.
get them.
Thank you.
Wherever you go.
Thank
It's
you.
always great. But no, then now that we have more people tuning in, I'll get back to proper questions to ask you, because you guys, have both had so many accomplishments. You know, if you just, Deborah, you're a multi-award-winning journalist. Al, you take a walk through your office. It's one of the most impressive walls of any wall I've ever seen. From handwritten letters from sitting presidents to this immortalization in The Simpsons. It's really, really cool and special. But if you guys both had to pick one point in your life, career, family, whatever, that was the most important and most influential to you, what would it be?
I talk a lot, not just in the book, but when I'm out on the stump, just talking to people about my.
You on the stump? I didn't realize that.
Yes, I'm on the
Are you-
stump.
are you
I'm running for
running for
president.
president?
Yes, you didn't know that.
It's going to be
I'll
huge.
find out next week.
Huge.
I'm blowing everybody else
She
out of the
wins.
water.
She's going to be winning so much you're going to get tired of her winning.
I'm already winning so much, you just don't know about it.
She's got support from short people, fat people, tall and thin. Have you heard her?
Hers.
That's his latest. That's his
Okay,
latest.
all right, let's leave
Anyway,
that alone.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I think probably one of the pivotal times in my life was just in grade school in Perry, Georgia. I'm a child of the segregated South, but we had integrated by the time I was in 4th grade. And by the time we had sort of immersed ourselves in our new sort of culture, I had the 6th grade English teacher, Mrs. Dorothy Hardy, who was so great. And she was, a tough taskmaster, and we had to learn poems on Rudyard Kipling and Emily Bronte and all these great things, but she insisted on proper grammar, and she was very difficult. But I excelled in her class, and she said to me in that southern accent, Deborah, you really are on the ball. You're going to do well in life. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And I think it kind of got a fire really started in me.
That's
and so
beautiful.
that's just something I still remember to this day. And I hear Mrs. Hardy in my
Yeah,
head
yeah.
when I hear somebody else's grammar that is wrong, that is incorrect, or just somebody's phrasing something. I hear Mrs. Hardy. ready. I'm like, I'm sorry. And Leela goes, Mom, I know it should be there, not there. So I still think about that.
Right, this person's blowing it, and Mrs. Harding would not be cool.
Yeah, I would not be cool with it.
I think for me, it's not one. It's 3 events. The first was Courtney, my oldest, is adopted, and I'll never forget that. Like 1 hour there was a car seat with nobody in it, and then an hour later there's a 4-month-old baby. Yeah. And then I think, when each of our children were born. When Leela was born, and first of all, it was a C-section.
I was going to say, Leela, not so much for me.
And that was she had 19 hours of labor, and then finally had.
And he
to
almost fainted.
Yeah, it was. I got to tell you, when they,
Classic story. He almost fainted.
well, when they reach in and they say, "Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hand," and then you hear that sucking sound, and it's like, wow, holy. Oh my gosh! Look at that! It's like, ta-da!
I'm looking at him for reassurance, and he's looking very sure.
And then, because
It's barbaric.
Well, in the beginning, you're north of the curtain,
right?
And then they say, "Okay, come on over." And I'm looking over after they've taken Leela out, and I go, "Oh, that's Deborah's uterus."
Okay. So I didn't think you were going to share that.
Well,
anyway,
and then
you said that to Leela. She almost fainted.
Yeah, and then-
I'm telling people about my uterus.
And then when Nick was born, he kind of popped, and he had this huge afro kind of thing. And I thought, and he was very light skinned, and I went.
You got some splaining to do.
This kid better darken up pretty quickly.
Very good, Carl.
Where's the milkman?
Trouble here. But anyway, so those 3, the adoption of Courtney and then the birth of Nick and Leela were pretty. Literally life changing.
Hey guys, we're gonna do some viewer.
Please, let's have some viewer
questions.
questions.
Let's focus on viewer questions.
Viewer questions.
So Michael wants to know when does the expression Sunday come
That's
from?
a great question.
Our son has that too.
You know what? It's growing up. You would listen to the radio, AM radio, and they used to do drag races, on stock car races, and they were and they did them all over the country, and it was this guy who would go, Sunday, National Speedway, Santa Maricha's Valley Stream, Nitro Burning Funny Cars, Jungle Jim Lieberman, Dandy Don Landy. If you're near it, you'll hear it. Sunday.
So you're plagiarizing somebody's material.
Well, yeah, but they did it all over the country.
And
people have, and in fact, they still run these races. And
that's cool.
there's one production house that does all the commercials. And there was a little character that you go, Raceway Park.
Oh my gosh.
I remember that one.
Englishtown, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
How long did it take you guys to read the book? And Deborah, did you ever sneak a peek of Al's?
Oh, that's kind of a little source of consternation here because he claims I didn't read his chapters.
She read half the book.
Well, here's the deal.
She read half the book. Facebook.
Here's the deal. I had an idea of being a little bit more serious, a little more thoughtful about things. And Al had chapters like, his kombucha or guys always want to have sex. And I read a couple of those and I was like, okay, I see where he's going with this. So then I came back to your chapters later.
Yeah, after the book was published. We were doing interviews, and she's like, I'm not sure.
That's not true.
Maybe you ought to read the whole book before we go out talking about it.
But we did. But as we went through obviously many iterations because the editors have changes and so forth. So we would go through. I did anyway because we had them online, and I would go through and I would flip through, and so I also lived it. That's what Leela says. Leela says I don't really need to read it because I lived it.
Yeah, nice.
Our 17-year-old says that.
Women sticking together.
Yeah, there you go.
What is one advice you have for parents?
Gosh, what do we have? People ask us these questions, and by no means do we hold ourselves up to be like these paragons of perfection because we don't have it all together. No. But I think really for me, as Al just said, listen to your children a little more because sometimes your hopes and dreams are different from theirs. Mm-hmm. But also to forgive yourself. Because I feel like as a rushing, busy mom, as so many mothers are, and parents in general, you do things, you mess up. Maybe you were a little short with your child that morning, or maybe you got something wrong, or you forgot something for them that you were supposed to do. And I just beat myself up because I have this perfectionist tendency, and I want to try to be the best mom, and I just beat myself up. And then I will ask him every now and again, so do you ever just sort of feel like, God, you're just sort of blowing it, and one day they're going to look back and think you were just not a good parent? Do you ever feel like you're doing it wrong? And Al goes, no, I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm doing a good job.
That's my advice for women, for moms out there. Think more like Dad. let your kids take more risks. Dads let their kids take more risks. I think kind of, are not. I think usually if there's within a couple, if there's one helicopter parent, it tends to be the mom.
Yeah.
I think.
But also focus
put the
on
penny in your mouth.
But
Yeah.
Al's focus is on what he did right and not what he did wrong. He may have done one or two things that were really spectacular that week, and maybe a few things that weren't great. He focuses on the two things that were great.
And eventually you try to
loving
get
that.
better. I mean, Deborah hates when I quote this, but years and years ago, Roseanne Barr had a
here we
thing. She
go.
says,
Roseanne
at the end of the day, if the kids are fed and there's no internal bleeding, I've done my job. And
That's a pretty good standard.
I feel pretty good about
I don't
that.
quite look at it that way.
That was just a question. What are some catchphrases each of you have that the other doesn't agree with?
What is it? Actually, Al has this actually, if the kids and I are talking about something, and I said, well, maybe some statistic I'm telling them, 2 out of 3 times, this is what happens. Al goes, well, actually, little known fact, it's actually blah, 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 blah.
I'm like the Cliff Clavin from Cheers in our house because I store worthless trivia.
Yes,
That's,
a lot.
I mean, you're great at Jeopardy then.
and it annoys them, and it's like, so in other words, you hate the fact that I'm right, that you give me a hard time because I'm actually trying to be factual. Really, that's a bad thing.
You're correcting us all the time.
Well,
I mean,
then
come
don't
on.
get it wrong.
No, sometimes we're rounding it off. And then you know what I say that drives you crazy
What's
is,
that?
sweetie, I love you dearly,
But-
but...
Oh, that's
He
a tough
always
one.
knows when I say I love you dearly, he seizes up
That's
like,
right. It's like,
what's
or can we talk? I hate that.
Yeah, you hate that. And I
And
say,
lo-
let's talk tonight about something, and he'll say, what? Give me a preview. I don't want to come in cold.
And last
Right.
question, are you guys competitive with each other since you work for networks that are competitive?
Are you really? That's
Yeah,
cool.
we are.
We talk about that in the book.
Not intensely competitive, but we are competitive. I mean, I want ABC to win. I'm sorry. And you want NBC to win.
Yeah, sure.
And there are times when Al will mention the new ratings and the Today Show is up this much, or maybe their demographics are here or there, and then I will mention that Good Morning America has the demographics. What are you doing?
And this, yeah.
No, we want people to we want people to go to the website.
Where's
For the
mine?
signed copy.
And so
Oh, for the signed copy.
For the
I'm sorry.
signed copy.
I'm sorry.
Contest closes March 15th, and we will be. You register, and we will pull 3 names out of a hat.
They'll actually sign it right now. Live on
Yeah,
air, so
and we're
you
gonna
can
let Pepper
sign.
sign too. She should put her
little
paw
paw.
on
Oh,
there.
you're so cute.
She made me
I
so
like
cute,
that.
right? Oh, Pep.
There you have
But
it.
we will actually personalize these once we know who has them.
Yes, this is great.
There you go.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, perfect.
Pepper.
Oh, you actually did sign. That's really cute.
Yeah, show off with the sun. Okay, great. I'm gonna have to come up with my own little.
See the competition? See what
It is. It keeps you,
She's
it keeps you on your
competitive
A
about
game.
an
I like that.
autograph, for God's
Pepper,
sake.
people said it should be a smiley face because you're always smiling.
Oh, thank you. You know
Yeah,
what?
not really.
That's a great idea. I discovered it on Facebook. Look at this.
Smiley face
A
for that
smiley
person.
face. I came up with my own little thing.
Wow, that looks
That's so
that
cute.
looks so much better than mine.
You know what? Get out of here. Just get out.
Well, there you have it, the Rokers, the Rokers. And, if you really want more of it, really do go to the website, get the book. Fantastic read, really just fun. And you guys are so real and so cool. Thank you, thank you,
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
And don't forget, check out Erin on BizWire TV at bizwiretv.com
Yes.
and at
And
businesswire.com.
Thank you for the plug, Al.
You bet. It's a wrap up of all the hot things that are going on in the business world and just tech stuff and all that. So go to bizwiretv.com.
Yep, and businesswire.com. Check us out. We're live every Friday morning and Sunday with the Accelerator Report. Come check it out. Rokers, Roberts, thank you.
Thank
you guys
you.
are the best. Thank you.
And
Thank you,
everyone-
Pepper.
Thank you, Pepper. She's so sweet.
Real quick, everybody's asking, because Deborah was late, what's his Al get?
Oh, I love it.
Oh.
As I said
We'll negotiate
at the
that.
beginning, as I said, the fact is, all I do is get credit for being on time. It doesn't buy me anything.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
I owe him big time, and
Yeah.
we'll negotiate. I'm sure I owe him.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.